All right. Good evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I am Ashley Rees with Rees Realty Group, and this is Nick.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm Nick Aber. I'm with Groves Capital. Thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. We got some really exciting things to talk about tonight, and kind of go down some of the more accurate details of what's going on in the market and the home buying process versus what we may all be seeing on our news channel when we wake up in the morning. So very excited to talk about it. Very excited to be here with Ashley tonight. I think it's going to be great. Have some key points we really need to get into. It's going to be short, sweet. We're not going to take up a whole lot of y'all time. So yeah, we'll just get right on it, right?
Yes,
All righty.
absolutely.
All righty. So first thing we really want to talk about is just want to kind of break down a few of the steps that it takes when you are purchasing a home. So what we want to do is we really want to lay that out, and I'll let Ashley kind of go down the list and explain to you guys what really goes into when you're trying to purchase your first home.
Yeah, so there's several steps that, where's our screen at? Okay, there we go. All right, there's several steps to buying a home. Obviously, the first one is to make sure that you're saving enough for a down payment. And of course, that down payment could change depending on your price point that you're looking for. Step two would be determining a budget. How much are you looking to spend as a family? And what's your max that you're looking to spend monthly with all your taxes and insurance combined as a monthly payment? Three would be calling Nick here to get pre-approved for a mortgage. And then four would be to hire a professional real estate agent, which you can contact me. And then we will start your search for your dream home. We'll have a buyer consultation to talk about your needs and your wants. And then we will go into, once you find your dream home, we will make an offer and negotiate any kind of seller's concessions, closing dates. There's a lot of components to a contract that we would need to negotiate to make sure it works for both parties. And then seven, complete the financing process, which you would complete with Nick, the lender here, or your lender, as far as making sure that you get all your tax returns, pay stubs, any necessary funds that need to be verified during that process. And then we will also be conducting a home inspection. Now, of course, guys, there's so many steps involved in each of these steps that me and Nick will be doing a class on each one in the future. So just keep a lookout for that.
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah, we could talk all night about any one of these steps, right? Like if how to find the perfect realtor, like how to save for a down payment. Like there's a multitude of ways of what you can use for a down payment, how to determine your budget, right? Like what the best case to do of how do I figure out how much I should be spending on a mortgage, right? And so any one of these things, we just want to give you kind of an overall picture of kind of what it takes. I know it may look a little easy here and very quick, but like Ashley said, we could do an hour-long presentation or a class on each one of these things. And I think that's our overall goal, is to be able to be very high level on this first class. And then next we'll dive deeper into like, what are some of the common ways people save for a down payment, or what are some of the tricks that you can do for that? What all is entailed into a home inspection or whatever it may be. So I definitely want to stay very high level here before we dived into any of this stuff individually, right?
Yes, absolutely. All right. So, Nick, as you hear, I hear everybody is concerned about, are we going into a recession? What does that look like for us? Are we going to have a housing market crash? Will the interest rates come back down? What's the difference between buy and rent? Can you go into a little bit about telling us what that looks like based on previous market stats from years before to now?
Yeah, absolutely. we get asked these questions almost daily. So I think these are very good points that you had brought up. So we can kind of drill through some of this and see what your take is on this as well. First thing probably want to tackle is like, are we going through a recession? I think everybody wants to talk about the housing crash, the housing recession, or we're going through a recession. And really, we won't try to be economists here or anything like that. But what I do want to do is I want to draw up a couple graphs for you guys. And we won't stay on them too long because we're not going to be doing nothing but data. But I just want to show you a quick graph of what's happened over the past years every time that we go through a recession. And actually what you can see here is that in the past years, that housing stays fairly strong through all the recessions. And you can see here, we had a little bit of dip here in 2006, 7, and 8, right?
Yes.
We'll get into why we had that because that goes into our next question about will there be a market crash?
Right.
But what I do want you to notice is through all the other recessions on history that you can see an uptick on this graph. So the white line actually shows your housing index, right? Of what's happening to housing. Is it going up or is it going down? And your dark blue lines that you're seeing here is every time that the United States has gone through a recession. So you can see the last, I'm going to do this, quote unquote, the last recession that we had was in 20. You can see what happened to housing. You can see that we pretty much went vertical since then. And so whether or not anybody wants to admit that we've still in a recession or not, just to let you know that I don't feel like that is a key indicator that the housing prices are going to go down. Or will we have a market crash because we are in a recession, right? I mean, you've been in real estate for a while, right? So, I mean,
Yes.
you've seen through recessions that really if anything, what pulls us out of recession is real estate, right?
Right.
Typically.
Yes, absolutely. And like even right now, even we're still seeing multiple offers. People are talking about the interest rates being high, but we're still seeing buyers and showing homes and people are still purchasing at these rates. And it's not out of norm to see 6 and 7s. I mean, I've seen 5, 6, and 7s years ago. I think we just kind of got a little spoiled with those 2.5% and 3% during COVID time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was an anomaly. And if you jumped on that train, good on you. Right. But I'm not sure if we'll ever see that again in our lifetime. Right. I don't, other than some sort of another pandemic happening or something. But for a normal economy, we typically won't see that. And so that brings us into, our next graph of, will we have a marketing crash? Right. So we just talked about recession. So will the market crash? Well, let me help differentiate the difference between 2007 and today. And so what you can see by this graph, these big yellow bars, is the amount of inventory we had. And so you can see we're at our highest inventory, 4 million homes, at least 4 million homes on the market, ready for a family to move into it at 2007. I feel like that's way more homes than we had people, right? Like way more, like there's no way, right? There's way too much inventory. So something had to happen. Whereas you can see now, we have people who are still willing to buy, but we can't necessarily find the homes. And so really, when you don't have a surplus of homes, it's kind of hard to say that we're going to have this market crash, right? We're not going to have this surplus of foreclosures because the lending standards are a whole lot tighter now than they used to be, right? Or foreclosures are at pretty much, I won't say all-time low, but they're very low.
Yes.
And so, but I mean, this has other issues that may arise with not having a whole lot of inventory though, right? Like, because we're still seeing multiple offers like you talked about, but how hard is it to maybe find the perfect home for a buyer right now?
It's been a bit challenging.
Yeah.
We have to remind them that, there are your wants and your needs, and just know that maybe if it's not, maybe you can add that pool in there later down the road if you have to have a pool. You might find the perfect home, but just add the pool later, add the shop later. And you just remind them that you can tweak it to make it your own. Yeah.
So I think this has its own challenges, and I just let you know, this is showing 1.08 million homes of inventory here in 2023. but really it's not accounting for everything that's actually under contract. So I think the real number right now is like somewhere around 600,000 or something, right? So it's really lower than this. And so you're still having people fighting tooth and nail trying to get into a home, right?
Mhm.
And that's where it comes to having a good real estate agent on your side that knows how to negotiate and get you into a home that you're ready to get into, right?
Absolutely.
And so the next thing that I would really like to touch on is about what's happened with housing appreciation over the years, right? And so prices have been up in 2020 and 2021, so it doesn't really mean a crash ahead like we had talked about earlier. And if we look at history, you can actually see through that prices have gone up and they've compounded 118% that when prices went higher for 43 straight years. And so it says not to bet against a champ. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of get to the end of this slide here. Don't bet against a champ. Why are we saying don't bet against a champ? Because since 1941, we've only had not a whole lot of years that we've been in a negative appreciation, right? And so, and these numbers reflect the change, the percent change in appreciation. So does it make sense to wait for the next housing crash or for other people to start foreclosing on their homes when I don't think it's really going to happen? You can see in 1990 and 1991, really 91, we was 0%. There's just no change, right?
Right.
All the other years, I mean, really buying a home today actually kind of makes a little bit of sense because I think the statistic is 44 times higher. A homeowner has 44 times more net worth than a renter may have, right? And it's just because of that asset that you now have. And if you can see, especially over the past 10 years, what the appreciation has done, we're really not seeing them go backwards at all, right? So I would think that it's still a really good time to try to get into the real estate game, right? Whether it be an investment or a first home. Right?
Yes, absolutely. You can always refi later.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy to look at this statistic actually when you're looking at all this stuff of how much the housing has gone up over the past years and how many times we've actually had a negative impact, which really hasn't been a lot, which we can see over in 2007 and stuff. It was crazy back then, but since then, a lot of things have changed, like we had talked about. Yeah. And the big question is, so what about the interest rates? So what are they doing now? And I think, how many times do you have a conversation about interest rates in a week?
Too many to count. I feel like I have, several on a daily basis
Yeah.
of why we have we have sellers that are looking to sell. People need to move, whether their situation is to, get a bigger house, downsize. Kids are going, they're wanting to switch their kids from a different school in December. So we see all these different reasons of why people are looking to move. And it's just getting the buyers to understand that yes, we got spoiled with those 2.5% and 3%. Well, you know what? If you're waiting for if and when the interest rates drop, what's that interest rate look like for you? Is it a 5.5%?
Yeah.
Because then we can get with you and talk to you about,
Yep.
hey, how can I get that 6.9% interest rate to that 5.5% where that buyer feels comfortable to buy at? And if they're looking for a 3.5%, then they need to be prepared that we're probably going to get into another COVID situation where you're going to put $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 extra above appraisal, and you're going to be in that bidding war again that we saw. So you can always refi later.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what's the saying that everybody says, right? What is it?
Date the rate, marry the house.
There you go. Right? You can always change it after. I think some of the more meaningful questions that we try to talk with our clients about is, what are your goals? I mean, you mentioned it, right? About the kids, right? School district, stuff like that. What are your goals? What does it look like, the affordability for your home, right? Like we had talked about that in the first home, in the first slide, when we were talking about building a budget, and what does all that look for you and your family? Like if we can meet all these goals for you, the interest rate should sort of be an afterthought, because if we can make that work for you get you out of a renting situation, get you into something where you can start building wealth, and we can meet all your goals for now to get you in the better situation. Later on, when the interest rates come down, we can either refi or we can go find us a new home,
Right.
right? And I think that's what we're trying to say here is that you don't know until you try. And what you really don't know is that you kind of have to have that conversation with somebody, a professional, before you know what you can and cannot do, right? It may make more sense for you to wait. But like, let's have that conversation for it. And what a lot of people don't understand is there's actually a cost to wait. If you notice that previous slide, appreciation on homes keep on going up. If the longer interest rates do not come down, guess what? That house is not going to sit there at the same price. It's going to keep on building equity for the person who's living there, because that person may have to move next year because of their family situation. And now they're going to sell their home for 4, 5, 6% more than it is this year. So there actually is a cost of waiting, and why it could make most sense to go ahead and have those conversations now. And the really cool thing is something that we offer is individualized scenarios, right? So if depend on what your situation is, we want to make sure we can give you everything that you need to know what is best for you and your financial situation. And so if you ever had a question about, well, I've been looking at this home that's $350,000. Well, what happens if I plan on waiting? I want to wait till interest rates go down. Well, that's great. We can actually provide you a graph of that, of what happens when you wait 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, that same priced home. Now, this is a personalized report that between Ashley and I, we will do for you after we can have a conversation and figure out what your immediate goals are. We can create these scenarios for you and present them to you, right? This doesn't cost anything. All it costs you is a little bit of your time and to create a relationship with us. And then we can give this to you and see how this looks for you. Now, if this makes sense to you, then we can make a strategic decision. You may say, that's not so bad after 1 year. It kind of works with my timeline. I'm not ready till next year. Perfect. Now we can move until next year, right? So this is something that we want to offer you guys, after this. The big thing is, for a lot of the people, the target audience that we're trying to get after is, what some of the benefits are of renting versus buying, the benefits of a home ownership. So what would some of those things be, Ashley, of if you can buy a home?
Yeah, I mean, obviously building equity, right? Building long-term wealth, stable monthly payments, and then you have freedom to customize, and then potential tax benefits, long-term investments, sense of community. I mean, I don't know about you, but I know there was a lot of people that friends, family, neighbors, people of the community that when COVID did hit and they lost their job, guess what? They had money that they could take out of equity out of their long-term investment, which was their home.
Yep.
And that's how they got by.
Mhm.
And a lot of them lived off of that equity for a little bit during COVID. So you can borrow against the house for
Yeah.
equity in times of need.
That's a great point. Kind of didn't even think about that as we were talking about this, but yeah, it's something that you can leverage. Leverage sort of a debt, and one of the things on here that a lot of people don't think of is that number 4, potential tax benefits. We may be talking about high interest rates right now,
Yep.
but do you know the higher your interest rate is, that's more that you can write off at the end of the year?
Yes.
So whomever's in a home with a 2 or 3% interest rate, that's really good on the monthly payments, but a lot of times you end up owing a little bit on tax season, right? Because we don't get to write off so much money. So that is something that's, I feel like, is an afterthought. But yeah, these are great things of the renting versus buying. Again, we could take any one of these and we could probably do an hour seminar on it, of like how to leverage your tax benefits, or why it's important that, why this can be a long-term investment, what you can do after that.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't know if you knew this, but I'll go on to the next slide. One of the other things that we do, another personalized report that we can give to you guys, that Ashley and I can give to you, is what that actually looks like. So we can take what your current situation is rent wise, how much you're paying. Now, please note, and I put this on here, the national average annual rent increase is 4.5%.
Mhm.
Right? So typically, it may not be happening to you, not yet, right? I don't want to say that it will happen to you, but this is a national average, right? This is we get our information from this. So what we can do is we can take whatever payment you have for your rental right now,
Mhm.
we can do that and put about how much of a house that would cost you, and then put them side by side over years, right? Over a 10-year period, and figure out when you'll start to be on the positive of wealth and what that looks like over the years. This is a great chart that we can give you guys. So you can, and it's yours, right? You just let us know, and it's very simple. Say, hey, how much is your rent? That's all you need to give us. How much is your rent? We'll do the rest. We'll give it to you, and then you can have a conversation with your family, and then we can help you try to make a decision on that. If anything else, you just take this, and if you don't buy a home, you have this for when you are ready, right?
Yes.
So if you put this and you put this on top of the cost of waiting, I mean, you really have a whole lot of data here that you can go off of to help, I think, make a strategic decision. You know, we're not here to push you into a decision. We're just here to give you the resources and the tools that you need to make a great decision. If you have a financial advisor, great. We'll do these reports for you.
Yep.
Take them to them, and they will help you out, right? And I think that's what's really, really great about that.
Absolutely. I mean, I love this report because it kind of gives people, the vision of, because some people are so visual, right? So you can actually visualize what you're actually saving over the years. And when by purchasing a home, you're actually getting some of that back
Mhm.
later down the road and compared to renting.
Yeah.
And, I keep seeing rents go up and up and up in the area over here in Montgomery County. And it's pretty tough to start finding anything that, that's about 1,700 or less. I mean, those just, they fly off the market too. And depending on where you want to be, we're looking at averages of $1,750, $1,800 a month in rent.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I guess a little depending on people's situations. I mean, this is, and when we talk with everybody, there's very different ways that we can help people into home ownership, right?
Mhm.
Where we can get creative. It's called creative financing. And so that may mean, hey, do we want to buy a duplex where we rent out one of the units and I live in the other one? So I basically am mortgage free, and I do that for a year and I go do another one and I build wealth. Is that the kind of conversation that we need? Or do we need to have a conversation where you need help with the down payment? So we start looking at down payment assistance programs.
Mhm.
Are you a veteran? Do we need to talk about what the VA loans look like where there's no down payment? There's a whole lot of things. When you have a great real estate agent that's on your side, there's things called, like she had mentioned earlier, seller concessions where they can help for closing costs. So there's a whole lot of different things that I think get overlooked when we're just looking at what the media is telling us and when we Google some things. So what we would like to offer is just some free consultations, some free time of ours. And one of the best ways that you can do that is if you want, just scan this QR code, fill out your information, and we'd be sure we'll reach out to you. And what this will do is that we will give you your own personalized cost of waiting and or rent versus buying, and then figure out what we can do to try to help you, right? What do you think, Ashley? I mean, I think that's a pretty good deal, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, cost will do. I mean, we'll give you all this stuff to provide so you can have the tools to make a very conscious decision.
Yes, absolutely. And like Nick said, just scan the QR code and either myself or Nick will be in touch with you and we can get you the information that you're looking for.
Well, awesome. Well, look, Ashley, thank you so much. Thank everybody
thank
who's
you.
joined us. I appreciate all the participation that we had tonight. We'll make sure we try to answer everybody's questions that got in there in the chat box. If we don't get to it before we get off the meeting, we'll do it. We'll email you. Okay. We'll touch base with you. Everybody who did sign up, if you don't hear from us, no, actually you will just hear from us, right? You'll hear from us.
Yes.
And appreciate all the participation, everybody who joined us today. Hope you have a great rest of your night.
All right.